With that down, let's move on to our fourth main topic today. And our fourth main topic today gets submitted to us by Samwise, who writes, "Hey, John and team. I know a lot of us are focusing on the whole virus situation, but a larger picture question about the MCU, besides Black Widow being moved, has really been on my mind. Yes, people got excited for Widow after the trailer, but I haven't felt anywhere near the excitement for the MCU since Endgame ended. There's some great looking stuff coming, but I feel like the glory days are gone. My question, I guess, is, are the MCU's best days behind them now? Thanks." All right, dude, thanks a lot for sending in that question. And you know, it reminds me a lot, Rob, of that one scene in the Star Trek The Next Generation show when I believe it was after Jean-Luc found out his brother and nephew died. And he was talking to Counselor Deanna Troi.
That was in Generations.
Was that in Oh, you're right. That was in Generations.
The movie.
And I remember there's a quote he said that always stuck with me, especially seeing this immortal character like Jean-Luc Picard. And he said, there's something, I can't remember what the word he used was, that comes when you realize that there are more days behind you than there are ahead of you. And it was a powerful, powerful moment in an otherwise somewhat forgettable movie, but a powerful moment. Nonetheless, actually, a lot of people like Generations. But this is kind of a question that reminds me a little bit of that. We've talked a little bit here on this show about the MCU and how is it positioned right now, because a lot of people felt like after Endgame, as great and as awesome as that whole climax was to the Infinity Saga and all that kind of stuff, a lot of people, and we've talked about on the show, kind of felt like a lot of the wind out of their MCU sails has kind of sunk out. Now, it is true, we have a lot of really good-looking stuff coming. Black Widow, which is a movie I've never been interested in, but the last trailer got me excited. We got Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. We got Thor, Love and Thunder coming. We've got an Eternals movie coming. We've got a Blade movie coming with Mahershala Ali, for heaven's sakes. When you look to the world of Disney Plus, we got Falcon and Winter Soldier, whenever that eventually does come out. We've got WandaVision coming out. We've got She-Hulk. We've got Ms. Marvel. We've got Moon Knight. We've got there's a lot of stuff coming. There's a lot of exciting stuff on the horizon that's coming. But the question becomes, can it ever reach the peaks again of what the MCU has been up until Infinity War, or up until Endgame, I should say? I'm going to say this. I think the MCU's best days are behind them. Now, understand that before you think that means I'm saying something really negative or doom and gloom, consider this. I would propose that there has never been a crime / gangster / mafia movie ever that's been as good as The Godfather, or all due respect to those fans of Godfather 2, let's say Godfather 2, but let's just say the Godfather movies. There's never been one. Some people may say Goodfellas, I respect that, but I disagree. Does that mean, though, we haven't in the last 40 years had some excellent crime, gangster, and mafia movies? Of course we have. It does the fact saying that, oh, you know, there's another gangster movie coming out, but will it be as good as The Godfather? Well, of course it's not going to be as good as The Godfather, but that doesn't mean it's not going to be awesome. It doesn't mean it's not going to be awesome. Rob, the MCU, you and I have talked about this a number of times. The MCU has been a revelation to a lot of people. It did something in the movie theaters that really hasn't been done. Just like when Star Wars came out, it did something no movie had ever done to the pop culture or the movie landscape. The MCU has done the same thing. It's done something different and weird and with tremendous success that we have never seen. And it is so unique. And I think that's what people think. When people see somebody do something, they instantly think it must be easy to do. What they have done and what they have accomplished is nothing short of miraculous. And I would suggest, while I believe there are great days ahead for the MCU, I think there are great days ahead of the MCU. I'm getting more stoked about Eternals. Obviously, I'm stoked about Thor, Love and Thunder, even though I don't like the whole Jane thing. But whatever, it's still Taika Waititi doing it. I'm stoked. I'm stoked about a lot of things. There are exciting, great times ahead. but I don't think they will necessarily hit the peaks and the crescendos that the days behind have. And much like the world of gangster and crime films, that's not necessarily a terrible thing. We still get great crime films and great gangster films. And yeah, none of them have been as good as The Godfather, and that's okay. They're still great. So while I think there are still great days ahead, Rob, I think the best days of the MCU are behind, but that's not necessarily, by any stretch of the imagination, a negative thing. Still great stuff ahead. That's how I see it. Rob, I know you've been very optimistic about a lot of the projects that we have coming, particularly the aforementioned Eternals and things like that. But the success, both critically and financially, of the MCU, what they have hit is just unprecedented. So when you look at the situation, Rob, you're Picard sitting at that table. Are the best days behind the MCU, or are the best days still ahead? How do you see it?
Well, I think that, look, they're unlike when the MCU first started with Iron Man 1, they didn't know what was going to happen. Was Iron Man going to be a hit? I'm sure when they finally saw the finished film, they're like, oh, this is going to be a hit. But they didn't really know. They were planning on it. Now they've got 11 years under their belts with the entire Infinity Saga, and they realized, okay, it's going to be impossible to repeat the success that we had with the Infinity Saga in the way we did it. I think they have an even bigger plan now. And I think what they're doing is they're going to develop a multi-pronged approach. And the next time we see, they're going to be building up to something that's even bigger. And what they're doing now is, rather than they've got sort of like a one, before they had your top tier characters ultimately dealing with Thanos. But what was missing, I thought, was what was going on with the man on the street, during the Infinity Saga. And what they're doing now is they're building a multi-pronged approach to whatever. They're going to have the cosmic realm involved by bringing in the Eternals. They're going to bring in the Celestials more so than they've ever done. They're going to develop their cosmic, whether it's Fantastic Four and Galactus and Silver Surfer and all that. Then they've got their characters like Moon Knight and, say, She-Hulk, which are more earthbound characters. I don't think you're going to see them going into space anytime soon, but they're going to be able to they're going to have the man on the street kind of a thing, bring in Matt Murdock, whatever you're going to do there. And then you're going to have the Avengers that can bridge those things. So we're going to have a much bigger, more wider reaching storyline that is going to develop over the next 10 years that is probably going to be twice as big as what happened with Thanos. I mean, Thanos was just one guy in one snap, but what if you have a galactic war, and then you've got a war on Earth, and then you've got a war in the multiverse, and I think they're gearing up for 10 years and now there's more movies coming out, so they're going to be developing these multi-pronged approaches to something we can. It's going to be building up to something so huge where you're going to see. You thought the end of Endgame was big. I think what they're going to build up to when we see this in 20 or when would it be? I don't know, 2031. Whatever they're building up to is going to be 3 times as big as what we've already seen. And they're going to be building it up on Disney Plus. They're going to be building it up in the movies on a multi-track thing, and it's going to be bigger than we can possibly imagine, and they already know what it is. They already know. And they're starting, and they're planting the seeds. That's my optimism there. That's my Kevin Feige is my Lord and Savior thinking. Because he knows if he wasn't going to jump ship and go over to Star Wars or something, it's because he's planned something 3 times as big as Infinity War and Endgame. I believe it.
I don't know how you get 3 times bigger than all of the universe was about to be snapped out of existence. But that said,
we're gonna.
That said,
because we got a multiverse. All of the universes in every existence is going to be lost now.
And I don't think people are going to care. I don't think people are going to care. I don't think people are going to care about. But I don't think the average movie goer is going to care about multiverses and things like that. I don't know, Rob. I don't know that more equals bigger success. I don't know that more equals bigger. And I think we're overlooking the cult of personality and how important figures like Robert Downey Jr.'s Iron Man, like Chris Evans' Captain America have been. I mean, there were people, I disagreed with them, but there were people who were saying when Robert Downey Jr. looked like he was going to leave the MCU, remember that a few years ago? There are people saying that's the end of the MCU. You have to keep Robert Downey Jr. You can't do this thing without Robert Downey. Now, I always disagreed with that. But you can't sell short the importance that people like Chris Evans and Robert Downey Jr. and those central characters had. Again, I agree with you that I think there are great days ahead, but bigger and better and more success and whatever than what they've already had, I don't know. I think that's a tall order, dude. I think that's a tall order. But is it impossible? I don't think it's impossible. Obviously, you pointed it out. You're right. It's Kevin Feige. But I believe by 2023, he's not the head of Marvel anymore. You know that. I think he's the head of Disney Pictures. I think he's taking over Alan Horn's job. So I think he's going to have somebody else. But still, at the same time, never underestimate them. But listen, this is a big question, guys. And so I decided to make that the topic of today's question of the day. So the question of the day, I put it to you guys. I asked you guys, do you think Marvel's best days are behind them? Or are the best days still in front of them? And you guys said the following. I haven't looked at this yet. Let's go over and take a peek. So the question of the day, lots to look forward to in the MCU with Black Widow, Doctor Strange 2, and more. But would you say the best days of the MCU are behind us or still in front of us? We discuss this more in today's show. Right now, I put this up just before the show started. Almost 2,700 of you guys have responded already. Right now, 61.2% of you are saying that the best days are behind us as far as the MCU. Remember, that's not to say that the days ahead aren't great, but 61.2% of you are saying that the best days are behind us. 38.8% of you have taken a more optimistic approach, thinking that the best days are actually still ahead of us. Guys, I'm going to leave this poll up on and you can still vote on it for the next 24 hours or so. So you can just go over to my Twitter, simply at John Campea. Go and cast your vote there. So again, 61.2% of you are saying that the best days are behind. 38.8% are saying the best days are still ahead. Whichever it turns out to be, I still think we got great days. I still think regardless we have great days, maybe even better. We'll have to wait and see. Okay, guys.